This is the chainsaw I used to cut up my firewood, a bucking chainsaw, I guess you might call it. I was cutting happily away my 16-foot logs into 24-inch firewood pieces, and it just died. It did not die like it ran out of fuel. It died like I shut the switch off. So I'm guessing it's an ignition problem. So I will start by taking the spark plug out and seeing what we have there. No need to leave the bar on, it's just additional weight and mess to deal with, so let's take that off first. Stihl makes 3 different levels, I guess, if you will, of chainsaws. This is a 391. This comes from the farm something, I don't know. But it's the mid-level. They have a homeowner one. I have one of those saws, the smallest one they make, a 170. Which works really well for limbing. It's really lightweight. This is the mid-range farm series, farm and something, I just can't remember what it is. And they have the professional series, which I have a 261, which is their smallest one of the professional series. The professional ones have some, maybe some performance and weight advantages, but they have some sort of creature comfort ones. One of them is they have the 90-degree turn, so instead of unscrewing these like I just did, they just take a 90-degree turn and it releases it. This could probably be a bit cleaner, although it's not. Certainly did not cause the issue with it not firing, or dying, I should say. This one does have the compression release as well as the professional series, which I've not used it on either of them. Spark plug actually looks good. I will clean the air filter, put it back on, and see if it sparks. There might be a little, now that I have my glasses on, there might be a little bit of fouling in there. I suppose that could be enough to not let the spark be strong enough to ignite. I see nothing, just like Sergeant Schultz. Well, let me clean that and try it again. See if nothing! That means I get to take more of this apart. I can look at the switches. Make sure the contacts are all there. Outside of that, it's got to be the magneto, I'm guessing, which appears to be a pretty simple replacement. Depending on how much it costs. Might be relatively inexpensive troubleshooting, even if it ends up not being the problem. Well, I'm going to take this apart. There's just four, maybe 5 screws, and see if I can get some contact points there where I can check the continuity of the circuit that goes through the switch. First try. Oh, look at that. I think if I put an ohm meter on there, I should be able to ensure that the connection through the switch is good. So with the switch off, which it is now, I should not hear the beep. That's weird. Ah, that's it. Okay, I lied. This is actually like a ground, I think, or something. So when you ground it, you actually shut the spark off. Yep. So that switch appears to be good. So this is very easy to take off, it looks like. Gotta like that. This looks like an air shroud of some sort. Yeah, that's just a ground, and this goes to the coil. So it looks as though there's even a part number on there. Well, I'll see what it costs. I guess it's possible that some internals of the spark plug failed suddenly. I really doubt it. I'm guessing it's this thing. Magneto coil, whatever the proper term is. Well, off to the store to get one in a couple days, and we'll be back. Well, it's a few days later, and I did get the parts. I got a new coil, or magneto, and a new spark plug. Put the new ones on this side. So I did learn a little bit while I was waiting for this to come about testing magnetos, spark plugs. I'm not sure that this was the problem. We'll check that. But this was only $26. The spark plugs are about $4. So I figured it was not really a big deal, even if this ends up not being the problem. The 391 that this came from is at least 10 years old. This is rather stiff compared to this, and even if the magneto tests good, I know that sometimes you can get a crack in the insulation on the high voltage wire that goes to the spark plug. So the resistance or the continuity may be good with the coil itself, but you may have a spark leak there. So I didn't think it was a big deal, even if it ends up being something simpler like just the spark plug, that I replaced them both. So every multimeter will be a little bit different, I'm sure. This one does not have an automatic range, so I need to select. And right there it says K. Actually it says M. There it says K. Right there, meaning thousands of ohms. So if I measure a new one, and this is a resistance spark plug, meaning it has an R, and as the order of magnitude, I'm pretty sure of these, is thousands of ohms. So this says, it says 7.8, so 7,800 ohms or 7,800 ohms. For the old one, which could possibly be bad, I did shine up the end to make sure I had a good connection. And if I get my, and that says 9600 ohms. So there's a slight difference, 78 to 96. Not sure that's it or not. For whatever reason that switched to M, but let's put it back to K. So let's see if the old one, there's two coils. This one here is the primary coil. This is the one that the kill switch is connected to, so to shut the machine off, or the chainsaw off, basically the switch takes this to ground, so the current then goes to ground rather than going through the coil and stops the plug from firing. So it switched to M again, which is mega, meaning millions. So it's open, basically. Now I've seen some people measure those coils from the core, that iron core, to the primary, and the iron core to the secondary. Secondary is this one here. Get nothing, but I'm not sure I'll get anything better with this. I'm not an expert on this by any means. But here I do have 2.5 million ohms, or 2.5 mega ohms. So that's different than the old one. And that is definitely different. Let's put that back on K. So that's 2400 ohms, 2400 ohms. So, even though I should have done this ahead of time, it does look as though the old coil is bad, because I don't get any measurable resistance the same way I can get measurable resistance on this. So let's put this back in and see if it works. That little channel. It's interesting, the original one does not have this little heat shield that one does. I'm assuming it's a heat shield since that section of the wire is next to the fins on the head, the cylinder head. So perhaps you can see in here, right there, because this is a magnet and this is metal, so they attract to one another. You can see these holes are slotted. I have not, or I did not get instructions with this particular coil, but when I've put other coils in, like V-twin lawnmower engines, they suggest gapping that by using sort of board paper, which is sort of like what a cereal box is made of. So I'm going to use that as a gauge to measure the distance. I'm not sure that it matters. I'm guessing the idea is to get that as close to the magnet as possible without any chance of it impacting it when it's running. So I'm guessing that's what this does. So let's gap that and we'll fasten the coil down. I forgot something. That heat shield had its own screw. because I have one left over. Just like operating on a body, you don't want to have any missing parts. In this case, I don't want to have any extra parts. I did not look up what the gap on this should be, but whenever I have done that before, the gap straight out of the box has always been within the range that it should be. So I'm going to take a chance and not look it up and just go with it. Now let's see if this generates a spark. And it does. Look at that. You can see it right there. I hope you can see it on camera. Close-up view. Now the moment of truth. The other thing is, don't want to run it too long without the bar on, because a drip oil on the floor, the oil should come out there. With a Stihl, if you put it on full choke and it fires, pops even once, you put it on mid choke. It always feels good when you go to fix a problem and you can actually fix it. That's not always the case in my experience. So I'll put things all back together now that I don't need to take it apart again. Cool little heat shield. Interesting how the aftermarket one has one and the OEM did not. This is my chainsaw lineup. I just happened to go with Stihl. Just had nearby dealers. I know Husqvarna is another popular brand, but I don't have a particular preference. It's just that what I started with and feel comfortable with. Stihl has 3 categories of chainsaws, I guess you'd call them. The first one here in front, the small one, is from the Homeowner series. The second one is Farm and Ranch, the middle one, and the one on the end is from their Professional series. It just so happens I have one from each category. It wasn't planned that way, it just happened. This one is the 170. It's the smallest one you can get, entry level. When I bought it, it was about $170, interestingly enough. Pretty cheap. I have a 14-inch bar on it. It works well for limbing. Very lightweight. The middle one have a longer bar on it, 24-inch, for doing my firewood. That's the largest one in the Farm and Ranch series, $391. And the Professional series one that I have is actually the entry level, the smallest one in the Professional series. It's a 261C, and I just have a 16-inch bar on it. It's sort of my workhorse in the woods. One of the things I'll mention here in a bit. It's very lightweight and powerful. Starts easy. It's very handy in the woods. So regarding the power, a big difference between these. These are about the same power, the 391 and the 261. They're about just over 4 horsepower each, but without the bar, there's about a 3-pound difference. The professional series, the one to the right, is about 3 pounds lighter for roughly the same power as the 391, which is a bit heavier. That's one of the things that makes it handy in the woods when you're, walking through snow and carrying it around a lot, as opposed to the 391, which I use now just for bucking firewood, so the weight's not nearly as much of an issue. The professional series also has some other creature comforts that make it a bit more convenient to operate. One of them is the 90-degree screws, so just by turning it 90 degrees you release that with 3 of them. Easy to access the air cleaner, as opposed to this one, which is a regular screw and you have to unscrew it either with this or with a Torx wrench. The homeowner series, this one's convenient. It's just a simple one there to access it. One of the features with both the middle line and the professional series is the difference in the fuel cap. This one is a quarter turn to release it. Same with the oil. This one is a screw, which I really don't mind, the screw. It actually, in some instances, I actually like that. It's a lot less complicated. I've had issues with this not latching properly, leaking. The professional series has an adjustable oiler for the chain on the bottom. I don't know if I've ever used it. It's in there somewhere. But the factory setting works fine for me, but it is adjustable where the other series are not. The kill switch, I think, one of the most impressive features. So this one, which is typical, I think, of most chainsaws, you have an off position, you have a mid, you have just run, so there's off, run, you have mid choke, here is full choke, you run it, and then put it on mid choke, and then hit the throttle and it goes to run, the choke is off. This one has really just 2 positions. It has run and choke. So this particular one, it may not be the same with all professional series, but at least with the C series, the electronic carburetor, it has 2 positions. So you put it on choke, there is no full choke, mid choke, it's just choke and on. And then to shut it off, it's just a momentary switch. You just hit that switch momentarily and it shuts the chainsaw off. The big advantage is you pick the saw up, you don't have to put it into the run position. You can just, particularly if it's warm, you don't even have to put it on choke, but the switch is much easier to access. Sometimes when this is off and you have gloves on, it's difficult to get your thumb in there to put it on. I don't know how many times after I've been using the 261 for a while and I pick up another one and I go to start it and wonder why it hasn't started. Well, you got to put the switch on. But this one, you don't have to put the switch on. It defaults to the on position. The last thing these 2 series have is a decompression valve, which I guess is handy. I've never used it. Maybe for the larger displacement models it might be handy, but they've always turned over easy enough for me. The homeowner series does not have that, and of course a tiny one, you probably wouldn't need it anyhow. So that's it for this quick and thankfully successful repair. I appreciate you watching. Thank you very much.